Hey California Real Estate, welcome back again to NHD Academy. In our other episodes, we've discussed the 6 important natural hazards that California's NHD law requires a real estate seller to disclose to a prospective buyer. The 2 flood, 2 fire, and 2 seismic hazard zones. Those are state-level disclosure requirements, but regulatory natural hazard zones also exist at the local level in the safety element of the city and county general plan. I'm Patrick McClellan, your host for this episode of NHD Academy, a video series for California real estate agents and consumers. In this segment, we'll explain municipal regulatory hazard zones. It turns out this is where the rubber meets the road. And that's because county and city level hazard zones can affect the outcome of a building permit application, and that may limit how a buyer can use the property. Under California's government code, each city and county is required to draft and adopt a long-range planning document called the General Plan. It maps out how the community will safely grow and regulate land use within its jurisdiction. The chapter of the General Plan called the Safety Element identifies and typically defines natural hazard zones, and the local planning and building department regulate development within those zones. The municipal hazard zones often cover flood, fire, and seismic hazard, as does California's NHD law, but the local zones typically differ in detail, and that's because city and county planners have a sharper focus on the safety of their own immediate community. In addition, local regulatory zones often identify hazards that are unique to that jurisdiction, such as expansive soils or erosion potential, methane gas, and high groundwater, and those hazards aren't mapped and regulated by state or federal agencies. These county and city regulatory zones can limit how private property may be used or whether a building permit is approved or denied. So it's important that the seller disclose the local hazard zones in the safety element along with the regulatory hazard zones the state requires under California's NHD law. And it's better for all parties that those local hazard zones and their possible constraints on property use are discovered before the close of escrow rather than afterward, when an unhappy buyer might learn about them at the building permit counter. So a question: does your NHD report disclose regulatory zones from the general plan safety element? How can you be sure? The report should explicitly identify the jurisdiction of the city or county general plan and cite the element's name and adoption date and the map number in that general plan that the local disclosures are made from. So there you have it. The natural hazard zones in the city and county general plan safety element. They're important to disclose because they can limit the buyer's use and enjoyment of the sale property. These local zones are regulatory. They guide land use within the municipal jurisdiction, and they can be enforced on development through the building permit process. And finally, because the safety element is unique to the jurisdiction, the hazard zones in it often differ from state-level disclosures. So they're important for the seller to disclose and the buyer to know. To learn about the other types of natural hazard disclosures, check out the other episodes in our NHD Academy library. Visit our website, click on the Training Videos tab in the top menu, and watch all the episodes there. And we'll see you next time.